Hey there, Explorers. It's time for another Child Bloom Explorers Club guitar lesson. This one is about the fretboard. Now, this one's also being made for our campers who are going to do Mr. Chris's chord camp. This knowledge is going to be really, really important to understanding how to build chords in the long run. The topic for today is understanding and knowing our entire fretboard. To do that, there are two simple concepts you have to understand. One is the relationship of a half step. The other is the relationship of a whole step. A half step on the guitar is the distance from one fret to the very next fret. A whole step is the distance from one fret over a fret to the next fret. All right, so there's a gap in a whole step. We use these two steps with the musical alphabet, and we can find any note on the entire instrument. This concept is easier to see on the piano, so I'm going to do a demonstration on the piano. But before we get to that, let's review the musical alphabet. The notes in the musical alphabet are quite simply A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we start again at A. Between B and C and E and F, there can only ever be a half step. All the rest of the notes get a whole step. So A to B is a whole step, C to D is a whole step, D to E, F to G, and G to A. Notice I left out B to C and E to F. Those notes are half steps. So let's take a look at them on the piano. The relationship between half steps and whole steps is much more visible on the piano than the guitar. So we'll learn them first on the piano and then we'll be able to translate them over to the guitar. As I had mentioned, the distance between B and C, which is right here, B and C. Here's your B, and that's the C. Anytime you have two black keys, to the left of the black key of 2 is C. And then that makes this C, D, E, F, G, A, B. There it is again, C. So if we look at that, there is a B right there, and a C, and a B, and a C. Notice between B and C there's no black key. Same thing here. That's a half step relationship. A whole step goes over a black key, which is a sharp. So this would be C, C sharp, D. Thus, D, D sharp, E. Well, look between E and F. That's only a half step relationship. Between B and C and E and F, there can only ever be a half step. That's why on the guitar, they're always next to one another. When you play the open E, the first fret is F. When you play the open B, the first fret is C. Everything else gets a whole step. So if we continue, that's F, F sharp, G, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, and we're back to C. We start all over again. And that pattern continues all the way up and down the piano. 2 black keys, 3 black keys, 2 black keys, 3 black keys, 2 black keys, 3 black keys. It just continues and continues and continues. Knowing that will allow us to see it easier on the guitar. Now that we're able to see them a little more clearly because of the piano, the disadvantage of the guitar is that we only have one color on the fretboard. But we can use our brains and our knowledge base to put this all together. First, we have to know the names of all 7 strings. That's pretty easy if you remember this little acronym. Elephants, always, do, great, big, events. Again, elephants, always, do, great, big, events. That's starting on the 6th string and moving down to the 1st string. Elephants always do great big events. Now that we have that, we can move up the fretboard. Remember that up is down on the guitar because we're talking about pitch. We'll go up the fretboard, starting on any string we want to, because we know the relationship of half steps and whole steps. So Let's start on the second string, just picking one. The B is the open string. Elephants always do great big events. Well, we know the distance from B to C is a half step. So C is right there. The next note has to be D because it's alphabetical order. Going up the string, it goes in alphabetical order. And the distance between C to D, we know, because of the piano, is a whole step. So D, C to D. Well, if we're on D, the next note has to be a whole step up, and it has to be E. But then comes our special exception, the half-step relationship, E to F. There's a half step, E to F. And then F to G has to be a whole step. G to A has to be a whole step. And A to B has to be a whole step. When we get to the 12th fret, we uncover something really interesting about the guitar. The 12th fret just resets the entire open string schematic. So at the 12th fret, it's again, elephants always do great big events. Elephants always do great big events. And then it's like having a whole nother guitar up here. It's like doing it all over again. We did a minute ago the B string. There's B, half step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, whole step to F. That's a difficult area to access on most classical guitars because of not having a cutaway. But if you play a lot of electric guitar, you're going to get up there a lot. And being able to know that that guitar just resets at the 12th fret and it's just a tiny guitar is a really, really valuable tool. There you have it. The introductory lesson for mastering the fretboard. Like all things, it takes time. Make sure you say your note names out loud while you're experimenting with this. So that way you're attaching a location to a name to the location that you're playing. Also, depending on which guitar you have, there are dots on the side of your guitar. It'll give you reference points to know which fret you're on when you're naming those frets. Pick a string, drill it, stay on a string until you really own it, from the open string to the 12th fret where it resets. And then go to another string, right? And then try to like hop back and forth between the strings and see if you can remember. Okay? All of this will give you great, great insight into the Explorers Club and our guitar camp. I can't wait to explore this topic with you in our class in a few weeks, and I look forward to seeing you soon.